Hey, boys, are you organized over there?
Yeah, we're organized. Let me blow you up so we can just see, I think we're recording on all fronts.
God, that mullet is just so unreal.
What's up, idiots?
The boys are hot. The mics are hot. We got two boys in Tucson. We got Mark Dowdle and Decky in Tucson hooked up together. We got Nolan and I here in the studio just hanging out.
It's kind of blows my mind because we don't intentionally try and record this way with two people on either side in two totally different places, but here we are. Sorry, our connections run deep. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Yeah, is this a sign that we have officially gone at least across the continent? Like we've established Backpocket coast to coast?
I think we drew a line between two dots, and then we were basically claiming all the space in between the two dots.
You're right. Yeah, so we have Minneapolis to Tucson claimed.
And it's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty nuts because, so for the listeners that don't know, Andrew and I have been recording podcasts virtually with me being in Tucson, obviously, and him being in Minneapolis. Nolan Rockers with Opinion Clothing has been doing just making absolute waves in the world. So we got to have this guy back on. He's in Minneapolis. So that was going to be the original podcast. And then I get a text today from Mark Dowdle, who's traveling across the entire West Coast selling Bizzy coffee and living van life. He's like, hey, I'm going to be in Tucson in an hour and a half. How do you adjust to that? You FOAG. Figure out adjust and go, and you record this type of podcast. Welcome.
Beautiful. So yeah, we're here. Yeah, we're sitting here on a Sunday night. It looks like Decky's got a beer in his hand. We're drinking LaCroix because we're establishing a LaCroix wall on our first floor like adults. And the boys are catching up, hanging out. I want to hear from Nolan real quick and just kind of catching up. We had you on our show in February, March-ish of 2019. First got to know you then. Cool evolution with Nolan that we connected the dots last night. Nolan challenged us to have Jonah Stillman on the podcast, and Jonah challenged us to have Steve Weigel, which furthered our connection with Jonah for him to eventually move in with us. And Nolan and Jonah just had a little chat up here in the old podcast studio.
That's so weird.
Just
a cool full circle moment for the BP Corp.
Yeah, I think that's just like the power of connections. Like, honestly, Nolan, this is you. I don't even know who challenged us to get you on. I think you just did. I couldn't.
I just connected. I think we just connected, and then I came to the comedy night, and then.
That's right.
Yeah.
The 2-year comedy night that we had with the 4 people performing in our living room with 69 people in folding chairs.
And denim.
In denim, of course.
And then Lisa just won.
Yes, and Lisa won funniest person in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. First woman to do it in the 23 years of the contest being run. That's the coolest thing. Lisa Evanson.
And
Give it up for Lisa.
Give it up for Lisa. Snaps for Lisa. We got to have her back on the podcast here soon. But, dude, that is a crazy little bit of connections because then after that Steve podcast, me and Jonah end up going on his trip to Thailand. And that was earlier this year. And then after that, Jonah lives in the old podcast studio, like he was saying. I think that's just like the power of that networking and just genuine like recommendations and friendship. I think it's just the coolest thing.
Yeah.
It lasts.
I didn't realize that until you brought that up.
Oh, yeah. It's the coolest thing. And one cool connection that you've built on with Hybrid Nation is, connecting with other clothing brands here in the Twin Cities.
Yep.
You want to tap into that a little bit because you just launched the collection that you're wearing right now.
Yeah. So, like you kind of touched on, I left my full-time job about 8 weeks ago to take on Opinion full-time, if you want to put it that way. I became good friends with Jeremy Sutherland, who is the co-owner of Hybrid Nation. Which is another Minneapolis clothing brand. And he also owns a painting company where he paints houses in the summer. And so I was looking for a side gig, and he said, we're looking for someone to help us paint. So I'm a painter now.
He's an artist.
Yeah. I did that from like 7 a.m. to 3-ish, and then would go home and do opinion for the rest of the time. And that was kind of my summer.
What was it like paint or not? Yeah, what was it like painting?
I like it a lot. There's some times where we're all just like in a zone, just no one's talking, but then there's other times where we're all like on the same side of the house and we're all just, bullshitting with each other, and it just like felt good to be around people that understood the industry I was in with like clothing and stuff. So I was painting and also just getting a bunch of new information from Jeremy, picking his brain about, stuff he's been through with hibernation, because he's been running it for, I think, like 7 years now.
Uh-huh.
So basically I would just be asking him questions the whole time while I painted.
So what was it like quitting your job then and having like this ultimate like chunk of time to do exactly what you wanted to do and execute on something that like you genuinely care about for the first time in your life, really?
Yeah. And to further that question, I remember you saying a few times since we've met, been good friends now for just over a year, how your marketing job, you enjoyed the tactical skills that you were learning, didn't fully love the company, didn't fully love the culture of the company and the clients that you were working with, but the idea of it was kind of there, and more so transitioning those tactical skills to opinion. So like, I know these thoughts have been like building up for a year or longer. So what was it like pulling the trigger, or in the weeks leading up to pulling the trigger?
So, all right. So a little story time. So
Perfect.
This is all obviously during COVID. And, so just like long story short, I got off a Zoom call with one of my bosses, and I believed that I was being fired from the information that we talked about and how he worded certain things. And so I was like, well, I'm getting fired.
What did he say?
He was just like, he hit me with the, do you like working here? Or he said, are you more passionate about working here or opinion? And I was like, well, that's not fair to ask, because opinion is like my dream. And I was like, I'm not going to lie to you and say that working there is what I'm passionate about. I was like, opinion. And he was like, all right, well, we can kind of see that in your work. And I was like, all right, well, I didn't see this coming, but here we go. And so we just kind of talked about how we both thought it'd be fair for them to bring someone else on that could put 100% of their focus on that job, instead of having someone in there that's maybe 90% in that job and then 10% thinking about, which in my case would be opinion. So I wasn't all there all the time. So then we kind of just hashed things out. I stayed for a month until they found someone else. And then I left, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
So would you say they more so forced your hand into, or was the writing on the wall for you personally? And they escalated
kind of great.
it.
Like, a lot of people are telling me that, like, it sounds like they were forcing you out, but I also didn't want to be there. So it was like, in the end, it was a mutual agreement. But from that initial conversation that started it all, I felt like I was being let go.
So Nolan, based on you saying that sort of unexpected, the conversation that you had with your boss, do you feel pressure from sort of being, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you feel unprepared to dive fully into this opinion? And how did you handle that transition of like, okay, this is sort of an unexpected conversation that I'm having with my boss. Now it's time to go. Like, how did you handle that pressure in that time?
So I've been having a lot of anxiety about, I wanted to have that conversation, but I didn't understand how to have it, because something I've kind of learned in like the past 6 months is that, like, this is my life, and I can't think about like hurting other people's feelings if I like need to do something that will better me personally. And that was leaving that job. And I was too scared to leave it because in my head, I was like, well, they gave me my first job, you know, they're a small company and I don't want to make any hassle for them. But, in the end, I was like, you know, this is probably both good for both of us. And then after that kind of settled down, I was like, well, I don't have a job now. So I was pretty stressed out about it because Opinion isn't like, it's definitely not suitable to keep me afloat for like financially. But I see that in like the next year that could happen. So it was like, do I want to make this leap now? And kind of scratch and claw for like money with painting and stuff, or stay at a job that's, you know, guaranteed money every month, but not liking it there. And I decided to take the latter and, you know, just kind of venture off.
I like that move. I think it's not an easy one, but and I haven't personally done it yet. But what's cool is like when you said like you're fighting and scratching, and the first thing you think of going to do is painting, which you know painting will pay to pay you to some degree, but it's gonna fuel your creative side to then help Opinion. Whereas before, I don't know if it did or not, but maybe the company you were working at before didn't necessarily contribute quite as much to Opinion.
No,
so now you're making money in painting, and that's in some way providing some value to your dream.
Yeah. So like painting this summer, I've learned more about like the clothing industry than I've learned by myself the past year and a half, because Jeremy just had all the answers to the questions that I was asking. And then that's how we got our collab to happen, was just us talking about us collabing while we were painting, and then it actually happened.
That's super interesting.
So that, I believe that would not have happened this early if I would have stayed at my full-time job.
Yeah, man, that's incredible. Mad props to you.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Yeah, thank you.
I know we said that off air, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
We all have things that we like really care about. That's our babies. That like as an entrepreneur, and we're debating all the time, is it time to go all in on this? Is this what I want to financially stabilize my life with? Like that's the hardest part, is turning your hobby, your love of what you do, into something that's also got to support you financially. And that's the scariest thing. Will I lose the love in it because now I'm looking at everything monetarily?
Mm-hmm.
But then you find other outlets that like don't force that hand quite yet.
Yep.
But you're still all invested in it. So,
and I always thought there would be like a moment where I would strike like a deal or like a collab where I'm like, I can finally quit my job now that this happened. But I just don't know if that's the right time to like leave your full-time job, because you're going to have to put so much work into getting to that point where if I was at my full-time job, I wouldn't have been able to work on any of the stuff that I did.
Sure. What would you say, since you've quit your job, since you're fully invested in it, has there been one thing, and maybe Jeremy's led you down this path, that you're like, this is the tactical skill that could elevate Opinion's future tenfold?
Just making me realize that all these clothing brands start at the same point. Like nothing makes another one more special. It's just how hard you work at connecting with certain people, how hard you work at figuring out, you know, fabrics and material, and it's the work you put into it that you're going to get back out. And that's something I really realized through Jeremy, is how hard he works. And, you know, it's not just him selling clothes and having people just happening to buy them. He puts a lot of work into perfecting them, and realized I need to do that exact same thing for Opinion. I can't just print something on a shirt, say it has meaning, and then hope people buy it. Like now I'm really into like the fabrics and the quality and the materials. And I think that's going to take Opinion to the next step other than just a brand. Like
the messaging with the brand. Yeah. But the actual
message
material
was always there.
Yeah.
And now I really want to get into the material and having it like when someone puts it on, they're like, wow, this is not only an awesome message, but this is like the comfiest sweatshirt I've ever had.
Yep. Fire. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And that, I mean, even that first Opinion spoon, blue, navy blue, and Andrew has a gray one, that hoodie. And I think that spoon's overrated. I'll say that, but the shirt and the sweatshirt is not. I can't tell you how many times I have people come up to me and ask what that's from and everything. One guy who was a bartender at Sisyphus Brewery wanted to buy it off me. And I shot, because he's like into streetwear and shit.
Yeah.
And I airdropped him the link, and I think he ended up purchasing. I'm not sure. But he was like, hey, you need to get this guy into the street apparel Reddit page. Like, this is like, he could easily get connected through that and this, that, and the other. But like the thoughtfulness that went into that design, when you look at how it's not screen printed, it's stitched in. And I think that makes a massive difference, especially if you pay attention to that. And just like the more clothes that I've purchased, I've realized how like important the fabric and everything that goes into it is.
Yeah.
Definitely. But going back to your point, I think that's a really interesting thing you bring up with, like, it's not some like big massive deal or something that comes from the sky that's like, quit your job, blah, blah, blah. It's more just like a situation that happens necessarily. And I was just talking to Mark about this, because Mark's going around the country in a van, living van life. And I don't think a lot of people know this yet, but I just got an offer, or I just got transferred out to Tempe, Arizona, and now I'm basically living there full time, starting in January. Okay. So I'll have a couple months off in between jobs, but ultimately I'll be leaving Minneapolis, and I, like, as hard as that's going to be and whatever, my plan is to try and start living van life, work construction as much as I can, but then just like, because they pay me money to be out here already, I'm just like, why not just try and dump the money into savings and then try and just quit my job when I think I have enough money to go. Yeah. Just build up a buffer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting stuff. We found out that, so we're recording today on Sunday, and I found this out, and you actually got the call while we were like filling me in on alleged inklings of what's going to happen. We're talking about it, and Declan got the call from his superior letting him know the confirmation of what's happening, and was like, he goes, oh my God, this is Adam or whatever his name is, hold on one second, and then called me back and confirmed everything. So we found out this is 48 hours later, and I'm stoked. I love that we get to push through a new form of adversity, because that's when Backpocket finds its best growth points, is when the friction comes into play and we have to work through it. And Dowdle, I'd like to ask you, I mean, you are for sure our most interactive listener, from the standpoint of when you listen and something hits home or you don't like something, you're the first person to reach out and like either send us a video message, hit us with a DM, whatever it is. You're always in our ear about what our content's like. And from Nolan's standpoint, you listened to his episode March of last year, I believe, and met him a few times here and there, been able to follow him on Instagram. What's that been like, and how's your, I'm just curious from your perspective of being a listener and that transferring into real life connection.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, and I do appreciate that. I was listening to you guys' last podcast, and you guys gave me a huge shout out. That was fun to hear. But it's watching Nolan's growth, and just sort of like I said before off air, I've sort of been watching him from a distance, and what I'll say is that the more I've gotten to know Nolan, the more I've noticed like a tenaciousness that is yet to be unlocked, and I'm sort of excited for the situation that you're in, because it sounded like you were, like, going back to it, it sounded like you were a little bit unprepared, or you just weren't ready for that conversation with your boss, and now you're thrown into this circumstance. And I'm super excited to see how you'll handle it. And like I've watched it, you know, through your social pages, and it looks like you're handling it very well. But I'm excited, like we talk about quite a bit, that year out perspective. And then when you get to that year out, looking back on the last year and just noticing all of the little and big mistakes that you make.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what I'll be super interested in getting to see over this next year is like how much growth you take. Because we, you know, Andy, you and I talked about it over the phone a few days ago, and we talked about Jordan Lindell. And when you guys had him on the podcast, he was like the first week of him being at the job, right? It was like week 1.
He just quit his job. And
quit his job. And to watch Jordan where he's at now compared to last year is like, it gives me so much confidence. Like watching a dude just take control of things he wants to do without really having the full idea of how to do it, but just doing it anyway, sort of reminds me of what Nolan's about to do and is thrown into right now. And like a lot of times that first year is going to make or break you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm super excited for Nolan, and like we've met 2 or 3 times, and every time it's been a great experience. But I'm just so excited to hear what you learn over the next year, because it's going to be a lot of failure over the next year. And I say that like candidly and jokingly, like be excited about that. Like,
yeah.
And like we all will learn about ourselves and our own story and our own growth through your growth story too. So continue to share it and continue to like, you know, we'll obviously stay in touch with it, but it's
that's it. And that's it, dude. We're here to gas you up, Nolan. That's what
that's
what we always are. That's what the Backpocket does best. We gas everyone up, and we only do it to people that earned it. And it's the damn truth. Like we're not just bullshitting. You fucking earned this gassing.
I have the award sitting on my desk. I look at it almost every day.
Fuck yeah. That's what we should.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's balls.
Yeah, but Andrew's got a good point. You don't just like Backpocket's not just like a gas station. You can't just voluntarily show up and get your 87 unleaded in your car. You got to earn it. We're very specific on who we put gas in. And we don't just give you 87, we give you 91 premium. And honestly, I don't like being the podcast that is in the gas and oil industry. So really we're just an outlet plug. And we're actually just plugging you in.
Right, we're in the electrical car industry.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah. So there's really no gas involved. It's just a mere adjective. Nonetheless, we're here to energize you.
Awesome. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I really needed that. Painting has been, last week is like the last week we painted. So I've kind of been on just like a week of no job, and I don't know, just driving over here, I wasn't like in the best mental state. And now this just like breaks a new barrier and I'm ready to go.
Hell yeah. Good shit, man.
Yeah.
So you got the Hybrid Nation collab working through. That's been launched, and it's on your website.
This hoodie, it's on Hybrid Nation's website. He's actually got like a big office, so all the inventory is just there, and it's easier just to go through one website. So I just go there whenever we get a bunch of orders, and I just pack them up and we ship them out.
Hell yeah, sweet, man.
Yeah.
What's been like the most rewarding part about this hibernate, or maybe like the most rewarding story about the hibernation collab, and it may not even be the thing you post on social media or telling, or just like it's not something that's easily talked about or whatever, but I'd love to hear kind of what if there was like a moment or a specific story that was tied to this, that like in 20 years you'll look back and be like, this was the reason I got it, this is something that impacted me far beyond something that I'll ever like post about or tell anybody about.
I'd say there's two things. One, I was just myself. Jeremy's he's really good at talking to people, and he's really outgoing. And I remember seeing like his social media posts, and I was like, man, I'm not like that type of person. When I meet someone right away, I'm not super outgoing. But I remember telling myself, I was like, just be yourself, and if it's meant to be, then it will be. And so I never changed who I was. And to this day, he always tells me like he saw that right away. He was like, you weren't some kid that was trying to pitch me $1 million idea. You just had a brand that you were passionate about. And I saw that. And so it felt pretty good to be recognized for just being passionate about opinion and not trying to say, this is going to be worth millions of dollars, but saying if we collab together, I think it would be a even better message than what I have right now, and we could both help each other out. And that's what ended up happening. And so not even 20 years down the line, I right now look at it like, yeah, that like you did it. Like I don't give myself enough credit sometimes, and he has to remind me a lot that like your brand helped make this happen as well, because I look up to Hibernation a lot. I always have. And so I always was like, oh man, like thank you for helping me out. And he's like, no, like more than half the customers buying the stuff are opinion customers. So that was like the second part that I didn't really realize how much of we don't have like a huge following, but we have a loyal following. And he pointed that out to me, and I felt bad for not recognizing that, but now I do.
Yeah. Dude, it's your authenticity that shines, man. It always has been. And you're not like the most overly energetic like person.
Yep.
You have like that reserved, and when you're sharing something, it's from the heart.
Yeah.
Like us three, and I can say it with confidence, like we love to be a peacock. We love to like be overly energetic, loud as we can. That's just like natural, and that's when I feel like I'm at my best.
Yeah.
Especially you, Mark, and it's not. But Nolan, like your presence when you are yourself. And I'm so happy to hear that like someone like Jeremy, who I've started like research behind Hibernation and what he's done for even like what's happened most recently in Minneapolis with George Floyd, and creating a whole line behind that, and being a voice as a Black clothing company owner. And like his story is phenomenal, and him seeing that in you right away is it's just you're right. You're not giving yourself enough credit, and sometimes that's not the best way to handle it. You have to look at it like, I need more credit, like to give yourself like the 90% is still there to work on. You only give yourself 10% of what you deserve.
Yep.
But at the same time, weekly reflection and saying, dude, you're fucking killing it. You've taken that leap. You did it. That simple statement, you did it.
Exactly.
It goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I'm happy you said that, because I was on the same thought as you as far as that. And like, Nolan, you can lean into that. And I think that, listening back to your first podcast, you started this because, from what I remember, is you were getting turned down a lot of job interviews, and you're getting told no a lot, and getting all these rejections, and you turned it into like, that is just their opinion. Like that is just their opinion of me. They don't know me. They may not know the full picture, and that can a lot of times cause uncertainty.
Yep.
And I think like specifically with Declan, Andy, and I, like the peacock mentality, it's very easy to hide that uncertainty. And so like with you, like that is super valuable. And when you can use that, and like you can see that in your brand, and that is super unique, that like that to me is your roots. And that to me is like, it's sort of you're sort of back in that situation of like handling rejection and handling uncertainty, but you're going to find a way to turn it into that positive. You're going to find a way to flip the switch on that and flip the coin and use that to your advantage. And like, that's you, man. And like, as long as you continue to throw that back into the brand, like that's going to continue to shine on. So I'm curious to hear like what you're doing now that is sort of on that same thread of utilizing the new sort of rejections and this new sort of like way of life that you're dealing with and throwing that back into the brand. Because like you said, you said it's your painting job just ended?
Yep.
So like what's next? Like how are you going to deal with that free time? How are you going to handle that situation? What are you going to fill it up with? Like what's going through your mind as far as now the next few months and the next year looking out?
Yeah, so the mistake that I made when I went and was working at my full-time job was I just need money. I don't care like what I do if I'm happy at it or not. And so now I just applied for working at like a dog daycare because I sat down and asked myself like what makes me happy, and it's opinion and then dogs. I have a dog that is like everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so
Fucking dogs. So therefore we work at dogs and we also work at opinion.
yeah, so I applied and hopefully I can work from like 7 to 3 just playing with a bunch of dogs and then come home and do opinion and be happy with both.
God, it's so funny because that's like the most simple input-output way to like solve a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's and I commend you for that. I think people should solve problems like that as much as they possibly can, because I feel like there's a lot of other things that you can think of and you can get a ton of anxiety about it. Like, what should I do? How could I make money? What do I really want? Blah, blah, blah. And you answered it in less than like 30 seconds saying my two favorite things that I know are dogs, or opinion and dogs. And knowing those things, I can work and make a lifestyle around it. Simplifying it like that, I think, breeds a lot of creativeness and just strictly time for you to think about what you really want to do and how you want to move forward and more or less the vision of what you're trying to do. And I think you're on the right path.
Yeah, and then it comes back to opinion where I know for a fact people are going to be like, work at a dog daycare, really? Like, they're going to have like their opinions about it, but that's fine with me because it's going to make me happy. So, yeah.
Wait, I'll send you, I sent this to Andrew the other day, but I'll send it to you as well. I don't know if you know about it, but Hunter S. Thompson wrote this letter to his buddy about his buddy is in like 1948 or 58 or something. And this guy writes to Hunter S. Thompson, his buddy, and he's like, hey man, like I'm looking for some life advice, just kind of stuck in the mud. And I think you may have been transitioning between jobs or something. But then Hunter S. Thompson writes him this letter back. And in it, he talks about a lot of stuff that you're describing and quite frankly doing, which is it's not necessarily goals that you should be looking for and mending yourself to those goals. Make yourself the goal and make yourself the priority. Find what truly makes you happy and let that perspective drive the goals and drive what you want to do.
Yep.
And so I really commend you. And I feel like that's kind of in that same light of if someone questions you, like, why are you working with dogs? How is that effective to what you're doing with opinion? I think it goes down to sheer happiness and then the perspective from that happiness.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I sat down with my mom, who is a flight attendant. She's been one for over like 35 years. And during this COVID period, I guess they've really been trying to get the senior people to retire. And she just like sat me down, and she's super honest with me, which is one thing I love about her. She was like, I've just been having so much anxiety about people keep asking me, why have I not retired? And she was like, you know what? I love working. And I was like, and that's fine, Mom. Like, you can tell people that you love working because you're different than a lot of people. Like, she can't sit around and just be lazy. And she struggled with telling people that she liked to work and that working as a flight attendant made her happy. And so I hopefully I like opened her eyes to that's okay to be happy at where you're working.
Have you thought, so would you say that opinion is trending in more of the direction of like a champion brand, like a vintage style brand, or like a life is good brand type of deal? Because I'm seeing like, I'm just like seeing like,
Really good
like
question.
there's a, you know, when you say like opinion, and then, you know, there's a lot of anxiety around your mom's like, you know, I just love to work. Like, it'd be super cool to create a product or a brand around your mom, just like opinion, I love to work. Like, you know, like dealing with these anxious conversations, and like everybody's just trying to get on people's opinion, and like everybody wants their opinion heard, and like you love dogs. You was a very simple choice. I love dogs and I love opinion.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever thought about creating the brand around, like, the brand is you, and like right now you're working with dogs, like you just got done with this painting thing. Like, have you ever thought about making it more of like a life is good, where it's like sort of centered around what you're doing in that moment and how you're handling that stress and that anxiety at that time?
Damn, that's such a good question. It's something I've been thinking about for like a long time. So I think I've boiled it down to, I love making pieces that are unique for like graphically, so more like of a champion, but then I never want to change it being super personal. So like I try and get on Instagram or Instagram story and like tell my story of what I'm going through, ask people to share their stories too, so it never loses that like personability. But I guess I would say I'm leaning more towards like the champion as like the clothing line, but I would like to get into more like public speaking on the other side, where I can tell my story and spread that as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Life is Good has and to continue on that comparative train, they have that booklet that I think you can sign up for a subscription, like every quarter you get a booklet and you fill out things of why your life, their slogan, is good, and you can fill out like, and it has the same idea of like quarterly goals and things like that, but it brings that company full circle and it's interactive. And I do think they do clothing and stuff as well, but the holistic picture of it in the full circle of bringing your clothing to more of a tangible thing.
Yep.
And then them seeing the why behind it while they wear and support you.
But I do agree, like I want to start putting out more unique, whatever it is, a piece that is like what I'm going through right now, or like, I don't know how to explain it, but
Well, I think, and I think Andrew and I can relate to this at some degree. You a lot of what you put in and what you see, what you do, how you feel is also what you put out. So like Andrew and I always talk about the mirror image mentality of like how Andrew and I feel, what we're doing, how we're acting is the things that we ultimately share with the world through Backpocket.
Yep.
So,
and a good example of this is when the last few months we've been in severe uncertainty between you and I, and our content deteriorated. Yeah.
Yeah, to a certain, yeah, absolutely.
To a certain degree, yeah.
To a certain aspect, depending on how you look at it. But
I wasn't happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't happy with it. No one was happy with it. Still, I mean, we're still working on it. But then, and that's when I get down on myself and shit. But then you kind of look at, you just have to like look at it from a different, you have to look at the evaluation of yourself through different lenses to help yourself kind of grow and form yourself, because there's so many different things that go into it. But how we've always operated is like in the content that we create, and then in your case, the shirts that we create, and what Mark's saying with Life is Good is like, do what you're passionate about and what you're inspired with right now. Like, that's how I write jokes. Like, I have a couple different jokes that I like that are always good that I can kind of say at certain times. But if I'm not like passionate about that joke on that night, or something is a little off but I'm really passionate about something else, more likely than not, that other joke that I've never tried before ends up doing well, simply because I just am stoked about it.
Yeah.
So, and again, you're a clothing brand. You're actively creating. You're actively putting out new lines of clothing over periods of time. However, those periods are up to you, but you're always creating. And just simply reflecting on how you feel, what you're motivated in, you can put a lot of time towards that kind of stuff. So I think that's really what Mark is saying, is like, just start creating stuff in different lines of clothing or whatever it is, whatever you're motivated about, just go for it.
Yeah.
Well, you also said that your audience may not be large, but they're loyal. So like, why do you think your audience is loyal?
To be honest, right now, it's still mostly like friends and family, but I think hopefully they see the passion and I can't say it, vulnerability that I have, just as it's still being me as the only person running everything. They see that drive and they want to support me. And then I also have my new customers, I make it so I like reach out to them and get to know them on a personal level. So I guess not all my customers are my friends that like I grew up with, but I make it a point to become friends with them while I still have like this intimate experience with, every single customer. Like, if I get a notification that says Shopify, I look their name up, find them on Instagram, DM them, like, thanks for the purchase. Just want to like know your story. If you ever want to share that, or, what motivates you. I love learning that about, my customers. So I think that helps the loyalty.
Yeah. And after you sharing that, I got to challenge you with something. You said that it's still you're the sole heir to the throne. It's your company and you're the only one doing it. I challenge you to hire an intern, an unpaid intern. It is the most simple thing that Declan and I put off for way too long. And we did it.
We call our listeners interns.
We tell them the listeners that are interns, but we never had anyone actually helping us day to day with like minor things. And now we have 3 amazing interns, one of which we pay to produce. One of them gets a little sale commission, and one of them is still a student, and helps us with social media and different copywriting things, and event planning. And Lauren, Marcus, and Jeremy, all studs. And since then, I think Backpocket there's so many more opportunities for me to do other things, or just like focus are going to get taken care of. My mental space can go towards something else. So with that, like, put an opinion, whatever you think you need help with, put it on Gustavus's website where you're an alma mater, put it on U of M, or just throw it on, what all those job searches are, job seeker, and see what happens. You will find so many college students right now sitting on their hands behind Zoom conversations, not having anything to do, but be around other people that probably have COVID. And so you could just post it and you're going to get some people to reach out. There's going to be a filter process of, shit brains that are just putting it on, and you'll run through them and you'll find someone, and you'll quickly realize, and it's hard to like dish off tasks because it's your baby, but you'll quickly realize that they care about it and they want to do well. And if you show them a little direction, they're going to give you an opportunity to be even more creative.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it gives you an opportunity to bounce ideas off someone that you can share in that passion and that creativity, that you'll only go to that next level because of, including some.
I couldn't agree more. So I've been having samples come in for our fall/winter line, and I mean, since it's just me, I notice every like little thing that I would love to change, but then I brought it in to Jeremy. I was like, take a look at these, and he loved every single one of them. He's like, there's nothing wrong with any of them. Just took like a second person's, I guess, opinion to,
Ding!
yeah, to, you know, kind of tell me to take a step back, and it's not always going to be like perfect.
Dude, they're just the opinion minions. That's what you need to
Yeah.
hire.
The opinion minions.
I think that's really what it is. Or you just call them like your first hire is the second opinion, your third hire is you know, you just kind of go down the line. That's your employee number.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I mean, I think you're right on. And Andrew brought up a great point. It's a phenomenal challenge. Can't wait to welcome in and indoctrinate the first opinion minion. Very much looking forward to that. But it's great. Yeah, it's so crazy though. The thing that's really hard to do is like effectively delegate, because it takes a lot of time to tell someone how to do something that you do once. And then after that, it's like consistent coaching. So you got to understand what you put into the intern is what you get out. So if you sit down and have coffee with them one time just to get it to know them, and then you text them every once in a while to do the certain tasks, like,
It's not going to work.
you know, it's not that it's not going to work. It's just it doesn't necessarily clearly communicate how serious their position is.
Yep.
So the more involvement and the more care you can just simply give to that person, like you can just be honest with them and be like, hey, look, you're my first intern. I'm trying to figure out what to give you. What are you interested in?
Yep.
Like, let's try and like, I really just need a ton of help on these certain things. What are you good at?
Yep.
That's why Andrew and I have 3 different ones, because we have 3 different interns that are good at 3 different things. None of the 3 interns, their jobs are not, there's not a lot of crossover between any of them.
Yeah.
And the best part about it is each one of them has a skill set that Andrew and I, it's not that we lack, but we just don't spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend time switching between camera 1, 2, and 3 and making it look nice for a podcast. Did that enough. You know,
Yep.
I'm on to the next thing now.
Yep.
Marcus
I remember
loves
you
doing
telling
it.
me how many hours you like saved.
8 hours of podcast,
Yeah.
completely eliminated.
Yeah.
Doing them 3 a week last year.
3 a week, yeah. So we went down to 1 and hired an intern to do the 8 that we don't have to do.
Literally saved us a day of work, 24
The
hours.
day's worth of work has been opened up for Backpocket from there. Andrew and I also, hands raised, on my end at least, I don't think about how Backpocket could make a lot of money. I just think about how Backpocket could be like the coolest thing in the world and just go to Mars. I don't know. I look at relationships far more than transactions, and like I kind of feel bad sometimes when I take people's money. And I shouldn't feel that way, but that's how I feel. So we hire a podcast advertising sales guy who just is fired up about Backpocket. So that guy goes around, tries to find every deal he fucking can. Andrew gets all fucking excited. And now we're on our way to building a platform for Andrew to wheel and deal like he's a Western fucking cocktail bar manager. And he gets deals and slide the drinks across the table. Hey, you got a BOGO deal? Hey, brother. And Andrew is literally going to be a fucking bartender, a virtual bartender to advertisers on this fucking podcast. I'm talking Bizzy Coffee. I'm talking fucking any event that we throw in this fucking world. I'm talking opinion. I'm talking anybody that is involved is going to be a part of this. And Andrew and this other kid are firing on all cylinders. I don't think
Firing on all cylinders, trying to help everyone win with us.
Exactly.
That's why it excites me most.
Exactly. And that, if you guys are curious on what we're talking about there, just podcast before this, we talked more about it. It's a subscription model deal. But ultimately what I'm getting at is like you're at the steering wheel of this opinion rocket ship, and you get to decide where it goes. If you're worrying about like what food's brewing in the microwave to give to let yourself go for the day, like you're never gonna get to Mars. You gotta be able to look forward far more than you look behind you almost. I don't know. You can delegate so you don't have to look behind as much.
Yeah. And with all this being said, Declan and I think Mark can attest to this, we suck at it all the time. Like what we say, we suck at like following through with it because we hold ourselves to the highest standard and we want to be great at it. But vocalizing it and sharing like in just these simple settings, the listeners are probably like rolling their eyes like, yeah, you just continue to gas. You continue to plug in the electrical outlet and give them 91 premium. And, but
120 volt.
yeah, all the voltage in the world. But it's worthwhile. Like and Declan beats his head against the wall. And when we talk too much interpersonally and don't get to the nitty gritty, like detail of like what the steps look like empirically. But there's a lot of value in just taking time to go through what makes you authentic. And I know you're already doing that, but just sharing that in these type of settings, I know our listeners are vibing with it. And it takes courage to come on here and share your opinion. So I thank you for, opening up and breaking down your story.
Yeah, of course.
And Dowdle, I want to drip line a little bit. Our podcast that we're going to record here in about 10-ish days, 12-ish days. And the reason why you, Blake, and I are going to sit down here in the studio and tap into your 160-mile race from Duluth to St. Paul.
Yeah, we got that podcast coming up, so I'll encourage everybody to go check out. What I'll encourage people to do is to get out and run and do the virtual 5K that we're putting on October 3rd and 4th. That's the weekend that this big run is taking place, and I want to highlight Laurie Weber and part of the reason, big part of the reason that we're doing this is to raise awareness to pancreatic cancer and to do it in the name of someone that is a part of our family, our football family, and the greater community with Blake and his family. And Blake is someone that we played football with, and his mother passed away in August of pancreatic cancer. So I encourage people to donate. We have a GoFundMe set up, and
link in the show notes.
It's super exciting because John Weber, Blake's dad, got Love Like Laurie Legacy, it's officially set up as a charity with the IRS, and so we're working out the details. He's working out the details of getting a bank account set up. So it's just super cool that it's moving from just being a GoFundMe to like an official charity. And the goal for this is so that this is like a yearly occurrence, and maybe not like a running gig, but like what we want to do in the future is maybe like, this is post-COVID obviously, but like a softball tournament weekend where we have a bunch of teams come in. Just, Laurie loves sports, loved competitiveness, and loved love and bringing the community together. And so like trying to find ways to highlight that in a lot of different ways is going to be sort of the main driver of this moving forward. But obviously we'll dive into all that in a few weeks when we sit down and do the debrief of leading up to the race.
How are you feeling right now? You're in a couple weeks, you're literally going to run 160 miles.
I am as confident as a fool. I don't, and I say that because I have the advantage of not having a single clue what 160 miles feels like running. And so I'm using that to my advantage. But I'm also like, Nolan, one thing that I learned over the last few weeks, and I talked to Andy about this on the phone, is it's super important to be selfish at times. It's super important to like understand where you're at, and when you have this growth mindset, and when you're doing something that you're pouring this into, in my case running, in their case Backpocket, in your case opinion, is a lot of it just started with like, you wanted to, you had this image of yourself further down the line that was like your own personal hero was yourself, going to the Matthew McConaughey, like your hero's yourself in 10 years. You have this image of yourself, and maybe you don't love where you're at right now. And the only reason you're here and the other opportunities that you're able to impact other people and bring awareness to something, or, put your life and soul into something, is because you decided to make that change for yourself. And if you neglect those roots and you neglect that opportunity and that diligence of working on yourself and not being okay and not being satisfied with just throwing in the towel and coming back the next day and realizing that tomorrow and today and like this is your opportunity to move forward, then none of the other things are going to matter. Like none of the other things can be impacted the way you want to be impacted if you don't focus on initially taking care of yourself.
Yep.
So, I mean, that sort of went on a tangent, but in a lot of ways, it's like, it goes back to the self-service. Like if you don't spend time working on yourself, then how can you be of service to other people? So how am I feeling? I'm feeling confident as hell because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to find a way to finish this 160 miles. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be, it's going to be fun because I'm going to learn so much about myself. There's a saying in this sort of sport is like, when you're broken, you're absolutely broken. You're not sure, you're hallucinating or your legs just, you don't want to move anymore. You really find out at the core of who you are. And so like, if you're an asshole type of person, are you going to be barking orders? Like, I don't see myself barking orders at Andy or Blake when I'm 90, 100, 120 miles in. But again, I want, like, that is going to be the core of myself coming out. And like, it's great to know that I have support from people that I love and people that love me back. And so, yeah, I'm super excited because, I'm ready to just run. I'm getting tired of all the training. I'm getting tired of all the running and sleeping in the van and Walmart parking lots and eating out of a cooler and all that is, I'm just like, I'm ready to just start running. And that's the only thing I got to do is move forward. So I'm fucking pumped. Like, I'm ready to go. Like,
dude, it's inspiring, dude. That's what it is. Like, the only reason I ran, you're inspiring to many, many people, me included. Like the one time you carried a fucking 2x4 like 5 miles. I was like, I thought about that the next day while I was running. When you told me that you don't run with headphones, I stopped running with headphones. I did run today with headphones, but like most days I don't run with headphones. But you were like, I ran 14 miles, picked up and ran 14 miles one morning because you posted something on your story because some girl or something posted like her doubling her PR from 7 to 14. And I said, I'm going to do that tomorrow. And then I did. And like, I was like, fuck yeah. So and every time that I snap in our group that I'm hungover and tired, Mark Dowdle's the first one to tell me, fuck you, get up off your ass and get yourself tightened up. Cause that's what I need in my life. You come at me from 17 different angles to make me a better person, but it's up to me to like, harness that and actually do something. So,
don't show up hungover to work. All right. That's the big message.
And if you do, don't have a negative energy.
You still gotta play the day games and you got a job to do. Continue to do your job.
Yeah.
Always been saying that. But yeah, dude, you're an inspiration. I think that's the coolest part. And that's what's so interesting about this whole race and charity, and like there's so much positivity that goes into it that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how many t-shirts are sold. It matters how many people you can inspire to do something great in their own lives and running that 5K on the 3rd and the 4th. Like I'm running a 10K between those 2 days because that's the shit I got to do with not being there, and I have no doubts in my mind that I can do that. I want to do it to the whole heart of my ability, not only because I love you, but because what you're doing is so like extraordinary. It gets me fired up.
Awesome. Appreciate you saying that. On that note though, we did sell, it was like 43 hats and 60 plus shirts.
Hell yeah.
So there's like $1,300 being donated back from Unreal, which is going to be awesome.
Which is
unreal. Like,
it's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Will I have a hat for the drive? Will I have apparel for the drive?
So the way it got set up, and I was talking with Danny, who works with Unreal, who I've been connected with through Bizzy as well. We wanted to, so when we closed it on the 13th or whatever, that got sent to production. So it wasn't like it got ordered and then it got made. It was like, all right, we'll open this up for like 2 or 3 weeks and then we'll close it. And then, okay, now we send it to production. We make 40 hats, 60 shirts. So it's like just bulking up. And she said it'll take about 2 weeks to get out. So we closed it 3 weeks before race day so that people could get the shirts and hats before that weekend. And
Ops
that was
101.
What's up?
Operations 101.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like that was super important because I wanted people to be able to have some physical, tangible thing that they could, post about, but like more importantly, just have more than just that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like another opportunity for people to feel good about a donation and get something in return. And the hats are sick. I think the hats are super cool. And like I'd mentioned before, like Sam Harrigus is the one that designed them. I reached out to him. I reached out to a few other people. But it's cool that like everyone involved has been somehow connected or been on the football team. And it just goes back to like kind of the core of all of it, just legacy and family and, the forget about me, I love you mentality. And it's super cool to be able to rely on your old teammates and where they're at and what they're like he was saying with the interns, like they have a specific skill set. So they've used that specific skill set to bring so much value to what's going on. And so what I've been trying to do, because like managing all this has been it's been difficult, but like being able to delegate that off, like Sam Harrigus, he knows how to design and that's his skill set. So like let's let him do it because he's going to do it better than any of us. And so just relying on the family is super cool.
Amen to that, Dowdle. Thank you, dude. I'm super excited to sit down and walk through the progression of the creation of this event, hear from Blake's side of it, you coming to him and his family. It's going to be an awesome podcast, and we just get to sit here and hang out in the studio, get back in the studio on the hot mics.
We'll be in person for this one. It'll be good.
Yes. Amen.
And then I come back, and I don't know if you'll be around, but I come back
weekend.
Minneapolis,
8th to the 11th.
8th to 11th. Yeah.
I'll be there for that.
Okay.
For sure.
So then we'll record another podcast with you and
Post-run.
possibly Yoakum, I think, is what we
love
wanted.
that.
Me, you, Andrew, and Yoakum will sit down in person in the studio and probably record for 4 hours, I would imagine.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
So it was funny. Andrew and I were talking about this before today, and we were like, I was like, hey, Dowdle's in town. Can you join the podcast? And he's like, well, we're having Dowdle on next week. And then I'm like, yeah, and then the week after that, too. So this is this is going to be like a Dowdle trio here out of nowhere. People don't even know it's coming, but it's going to be kind of a really cool capture of like feeling and intention and moments of like leading up to it, like right before it, and then after it.
Well, I'm super grateful for that. And I was thinking about my first time being on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I had like just blurted out all these goals that I had for 2020 without actually knowing if I was going to be able to complete all of them. And everything got shifted because of COVID. And now I'm doing something completely different. But it's like in that same vein of like, shit, it's the fan. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure it out. Figure it out.
You figure it out, but you realize like the perspective in which you set those goals back when you're on the podcast for the first time is different from what the perspective is now.
For sure.
It's different because of sheer environment and opportunity. It's also different mentally, and that's what I think makes a special person incredibly special is they're able to adapt from time to time to time. You're not caught up right now that you didn't run 20 50K.
No, and a lot of those goals were like just based on what I want to do. They're all selfish goals, and now like this goal is way more than that, which has been like way more. it's just brought like way more value to what I'm doing than I would have thought. If like running 20 to 30, 50 Ks or whatever would have been sweet, but like at the end of the day, who cares? You know?
Sure. Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone last night on just like brands and things that we do in our own lives that don't contribute to like the greater good of society. And like it made me feel super sad that I was spending so much time in my life building like a facility where like old people just go to die. Like, and I put so much time and effort into this. Just bullshit.
You're building a retirement home in Tucson, right?
Yeah, I'm building a retirement home in Tucson. Look, I get it does provide a service, but like people make ass cheeks amount of money off of it, and like I'm in the middle of it, and I don't. It's just like there's actually no fulfillment in doing it, but we get so caught up on the day-to-day activities sometimes that we don't realize that. And I'm not saying that what you did is in any way contributing to that, because think about it. I mean, you're saying these selfish goals so that you could unlock more of who you are. That's more or less what you were trying to do. Yeah. But then when you realized, oh, I can set a goal and pursue something that's external from myself while I'm contributing to it and do something for someone else and receive far more. And I think that's really the lesson.
Beautiful, man. I think we just crossed the hour mark, or maybe just above the hour mark.
Yeah, I think we're somewhere around there. Yeah, are you guys tired over there? I mean, we're sitting here at 7:37, and it's almost 10 o'clock on your guys' end.
Yeah, 9:37. Just hanging out on a Sunday night, dude. Yo, the Nuggets. There was 26 seconds left. I just pulled it up on YouTube TV. They were down 1. With 27 seconds left. Jokic got the ball, hit a floater, buried it, took the lead by 1. 20 seconds left. Lakers dribble down the court. Terrible possession. Ball gets kicked out of bounds. Lakers ball with 2 seconds left. Inbound pass to AD in the corner. Swish 3. Buried it. Nuggets lost it on a game winner. Sorry, dude.
Way to break that. Way to break that right now to him.
I had to do it to him. It was just a thriller. I was hoping to break good news, but I needed to feel your reaction, man. How the Nuggets going to come back from a 2-0 deficit to the Lakers?
We already came back from 3-1. We might as well come back from 3-0 this time. I'm looking forward to Game 4.
Still got Game 3 to work towards.
I know. But I was just making the joke. If we're down 3-0, Game 4 is going to be when we really start to kick it in gear. I hope we can – I love the Nuggets.
And one more sports-related topic. We don't talk sports a lot, but just had to bring this on the show, dude. Got the dub today, Decky, over your Broncos. Go Steelers.
You are throwing massive shade over it, Decky.
I'm over it, dude. I committed to myself today. I wrote it on my mood board. I said that I will never overreact to sports again. That's what I'm gonna say. I have way too much turmoil that goes on in my life when I tune into sports. I just get physically, mentally, and emotionally distraught or extremely happy. It just depends on what's going on. And I'm not gonna let this one get to me. You know, Broncos are 0-2. We're getting close to putting lighter fluid in a dumpster fire of a bunch of people who have broken legs. But I'm not gonna do that. I'll let the season live on. Not to mention the Nuggets. We're in the Western Conference Finals. We just came back 3-1, down 3-1 twice now. We're gonna fucking beat the Lakers. And if we don't beat the Lakers, it's all right. Not the end of the world. We got this far. It's pretty cool. I'm just here to watch and be present. And watch my team lose on a buzzer beater. Hate to see that. Yeah, absolutely hate to see that.
You hate to see it. Sorry, man.
Stinks. That absolutely stinks. At least, like, I would appreciate it. I would actually rather have LeBron hit it. Yeah, just because it's LeBron. I like the guy. Nothing against Anthony Davis, but it's just like, can't allow it to happen.
What I can't allow not to happen is hearing Nolan's next big project release. So what is the date? What's the timeline? Where can people find Opinion Clothing to make the purchase?
Yeah, you got the fall and winter clothing coming in here.
Yeah. So I get the 3rd round of samples in 2 weeks. So I'm banking on those all being good. So then production will take like another 3 weeks. You can tell I haven't thought this out. Late October is like early November is what I'm really shooting for.
Oh yeah. And what are the what's the line of clothing?
We have a Sherpa hoodie, crew neck hoodie, another hoodie, and then a long sleeve shirt and a new beanie. So 5 new things.
Damn. What's a Sherpa hoodie?
Yeah, what is it?
So it's like, if you think of like Patagonia, like the wool, like soft.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be all about that.
Oh yeah.
Has it got the snap buttons?
It's got a zipper.
Zipper. Beautiful.
Yeah. So,
Dude, I'm all over that.
yeah, that one's taken a long time to get right.
Dude, that's exciting though. You had me at Sherpa, dude. I'll be real with you. You had me at Sherpa. I'm excited for the release. I'm gonna wear a Sherpa, even if it's hot out. I'm gonna sweat in a Sherpa. I'll be the first guy to do that, without a doubt. Not worried about it. But that's amazing, dude. I'm stoked to see that. I'm stoked to have you back on the show. Andrew brought this up a couple weeks ago. I was like, that's such a priority. It's not even funny to get you back on. And just an absolute additive to a guy who doesn't even know he's good at podcasting, Mark Dowdle. Phenomenal question bombs today.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable questions. You need that kind of work in a podcast. You actually delivered. Who would have known? Not to mention we got you coming on twice in the next month, which I'm stoked about. This is just fate. And again, this is something we've never done before. 2 guys on one side in Tucson, 2 guys on the other side of Minneapolis. We make it happen. We deliver the content. We have a good conversation.
We have a great conversation. And I want more of this. And I think this is the vibe that is necessary for this transition that we're going through with you being in a separate location. We've been talking about how it's difficult to create the Backpocket aura and make the listeners feel like they're in the room when we bring in a new guest and they haven't met us yet and we do it over Zoom. They don't necessarily feel the 2 of us, going on our normal banter to create that comfortability, to create the vibe that we love and our listeners love. So transitioning more to like a reoccurring guest that already understand the Backpocket brand and what our podcasts entail. So listeners, if you loved a certain guest and you're like, they need to have this person back on the show, or this person has evolved in a direction that you need to rehear their story and where their journey has gone now, listeners, please reach out. We need to tap into the 280 podcasts that we've released. There are so many golden nuggets and gems of people that have come on our show that, we'll probably come up with them eventually, but throw them on the chopping block right away so we can start firing them off.
Yeah, throw them in the chats, dude. We need the chats active for this one, and that's a great point, Andy. Just need more of these people. It's a great example of why this podcast was fire.
Fire. Hey, GG's in the chats.
GG's in the chats always, dude. Any final remarks?
No, I'm pushing for Jordan Lindell as a
We asked Jordan, actually. He's going to come on pretty soon.
Oh, hell yeah. Nolan just said he already collabed with Jordan to shoot the hibernation opinion.
And then he shot some content for our hat. He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He did some Bochella advertising for us, too, and it's phenomenal.
Yep.
Yeah.
God. But, yeah, dude, I like this vibe. I think we're definitely going to do more of it. Phenomenal freaking podcast, boys. We freaking did it. Look at us.
Good work.
Look at it.
Hey, love you guys.
Organization. Hey, love you guys. Take care.
Take care.
See you, boys.